Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. The Big Dollhouse is a 1971 American women in prison film that stars Pam Grier, Judy Brown, Roberta Collins, Brooke Mills, and Pat Waddell. Later that same year, another movie called Women in Cages featured a very similar story and setting with much the same cast and was shot in the same abandoned prison buildings that this film was. The storyline follows a group of women who you'll always hear identified by their last name. A beautiful girl named Collier enters the prison, having been found guilty of killing her husband. She gets introduced to the beautiful occupants of her cell. We meet the tough-as-nails lesbian leader Grier, the cynical Alcott, the heroin-addicted Herod, and the real rebellious cellmates Farina and Bodine. The women often clash, which leads to their torture by a sadistic guard named Lucian. These torture ceremonies are always viewed by a cloaked figure that sits on what looks like a throne with whip in hand, appearing to enjoy what's happening to the ladies. Collier's cellmates, Alcott and Bodine, plan an escape, with Collier and Farina agreeing to go along. Assisting them is their lesbian cellmate Grier, though doubts exist that Grier's heroin-addicted girlfriend Herod will be equipped to participate in the escape. Farina, Alcott, and Bodine break out of the solitary confinement sauna that they've been placed in as a torture, and they immediately take their revenge on the cruel guard Lucian. The escapees wield guns, attitude, and sexuality to free themselves. During their escape, they round up various personnel from the prison to use as hostages, taking the elegant prison warden, Miss Dietrich, a sympathetic prison medic named Dr. Phillips, and two local men that the girls have known because they were allowed to access the prison to sell their market produce. The question becomes whether all these girls will be able to escape their daily humiliation that they've endured all this time. This was one of the first films that was made by B-movie giant Roger Corman for his company, New World Pictures. Corman and Barney Woolner, who helped set up New World Pictures, were inspired to make a woman in prison film by the success of 99 Women. The original script that was done wasn't used a whole lot in the film, but was reused in other New World Pictures like Caged Heat. They felt that original script just needed a lot of work done to it badly, so it was extensively rewritten. Corman originally intended to make the movie in Puerto Rico, but he was eventually persuaded to make it in the Philippines, with John Ashley and his partners putting up a great portion of the budget and Corman providing the rest. It's said that filming took place over a period of about 3 months, which is a long time for a film of this budget. The crew arrived in the Philippines in November of 1970. Interior shots all were done in studio, with the exteriors filmed at an actual former prison. They supposedly took all the time they needed to get shots done because they felt like time was their cheapest item. They said nothing was ever ready on time. There was a hurricane that blew through at one point and tore the roof off the sound stage, and then it was just one thing after another that caused problems. Nothing ran on schedule. Corman later admitted about the movie that it actually turned out a little sexier and a little more raw than he wanted, so he really wasn't pleased with the film. He thought it was too rough. But despite what he thought, it was a tremendous box office success, and it helped establish his company. The movie earned about $3 million in North America and an additional $4 million overseas, And you got to realize this is on a budget of less than $200,000. Roberta Collins said she had a terrific time while filming in the Philippines because she said she partied every night and dated several men. The only time she had a problem over there was when two of those men that she was dating showed up at her hotel lobby at the same time. They proceeded to get into an argument, and one pulled a gun on the other and almost shot him. This also is her first lead role in a film, and it's her first nude scenes ever done. She originally didn't want to take on the role because of that nudity, but her manager and others warned her that if she wouldn't do those scenes, no one would hire her because that's the way the films were going back then. She took it and said at first she was a nervous wreck shooting the shower scene. They took all day to film it, and there she was completely unclothed most of the day, with a room full of people around her. But after a while, she started to relax and actually enjoyed doing it, and eventually went on to perform nude in many of her other films. At 18, Pam Grier was working as a receptionist at the film company American International Pictures. Director Jack Hill met her and ended up casting her in this film. In a rare interview from 2004, he stated that he chose Grier because she had that look of authority and presence, and she stood out to him. He said he saw that in her initially and figured that he should take a chance on her, and it paid off. Within 2 years, she was dubbed the queen of the blaxploitation genre. And this was at a time where film roles for Black American women were at a low. They were practically invisible. But Grier's one that changed it all. It also features her very first nude scene. And later on, she told Rolling Stone magazine that she chose to do the nudity in many of her early films because she wanted to push the limits of how black women were perceived in the acting world. She actually had a name for it. She called it the brown nipple revolution, and that before her, they weren't the epitome of sexual attraction for the male audiences in movies, magazines, or anything. And she did her best to break that line on what was acceptable on screen. And although her topless shots are fairly brief, she did shoot a very graphic lesbian scene for the film, but it ended up getting cut from the final finished version of the movie. I had never watched this film before. I had seen it pop up many times and just thought that it would be too ridiculous to watch. But I have to tell you, I was pleasantly surprised. It's not grand by any means, but you might find yourself enjoying it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.